What's up, everybody? This is Coach Jason coming to you live inside the rack. We're back for part 2 of our video mini-series addressing issues you found during your warm-up. In this video, we're going to cover the glutes, the hips, and the hamstrings. So without further delay, let's go inside the rack. So if you've been following along with this video series, episode 1, we did the self-assessment. The next 2 episodes were addressing upper and lower body issues that we found during the self-assessment. You can use the exercises and stretches that I showed you in those videos to start addressing issues that you found during your warm-up. In this video, I'm going to go above and beyond what was in those 2 videos. So continuing to work our way up the body, we have the hips, the glutes, and the hamstrings. So we'll start with the hamstrings because they're the lowest. So you can take that mobility peanut again. This is probably better if you do it on the floor so you can get a little more pressure on it. You may want to start on the couch, but you'll probably end up moving down to the floor. You're going to set it down, put your hamstring right on it, and then you're going to slide up and down. Hunt around for any tight spots or knots. If you find one, just kind of hang out in that spot for a little while. Another thing we can do is roll out our glutes. So for your glutes, you're going to do a figure 4. Set this down on the couch. You kind of work your way onto it and just kind of shimmy yourself around until you find a tender spot. You can hang out in that spot for a little while. Hunt around and find another spot. You can tip up onto your side a little bit to get the outer edge of your hip. You can move it farther underneath to get the hamstring glute tie-in. Or you can kick your hips out if you need to get more on the meat of your glute. Wherever you need to hit, this thing works really good. Another advantage of the knobs is it helps it stick so it doesn't slide. If you use a tennis ball, sometimes it'll go shooting out from underneath you. So mobility peanut works really good for that. Now another thing we can do for the hips, this is something I do every warm-up. So an issue that I have is my hip flexors are tight. So my hip flexors pull my femurs to the front of the acetabulum. So what does this mean in plain English? So my femur is the upper part of my leg from my knee to my hip. So we'll say this is the femur. Then this is the neck of the femur as it fits into the socket of my hip. The socket of my hip is the acetabulum. So with tight hip flexors, it pulls the femur forward. So then when I squat, I get a pinching sensation in the front of my hips. So I want to pull my femur into the back of the socket. For your shoulders and your hips, the most stable position is with the neck or the head of that bone in the back of the socket. So we're going to do the same thing with the shoulders as well. So what you do is you take a really heavy band, 2 light bands if that's all you got, put it behind your back, wrap it over each knee. So what this is doing is pulling my femurs into the back of the socket. Now the other thing we're going to do is a figure 4. So this is going to stretch out the hip a little bit and also allow it to pull it back. What you do not want to do is do not put your hand on your knee and push down. That's very dangerous. You could tear something that way. What you can do is put your hand on your foot and gyrate your hips that way. This will help loosen up the hip, the fascia in the hip, and it allows the femur to slide into the back of the socket. You're going to do this with both legs. Another thing we can do for the hips is we're going to take that same heavy band and we're going to wrap it around something on one end. I've literally used the ball hitch on my truck to do this before. So you can do anything that you can attach it to that's about 2 feet off of the ground. Works the best. So what we're going to do is we're going to stand up, put our leg through the band, walk ourselves out to put some tension on the band, and then we're just going to hang out right there. We're going to let this pull the hip back. So I'm going to flex my glute to pull forward, and then I'm going to release to pull back, flex my glute to pull forward, release to let the band pull me back. One final thing we can do for the hips, and this is something I've had to start doing lately. Once I get to about 70% of my max, I'll start feeling a sharp pinching in my right hip. It's been my left hip I've had issues with, but I'm getting this in my right hip. So what I do is I'll take my thumbs and I'll jam it right into that spot where the pain is. Squeeze really hard with my thumbs and just do some body weight squats. I'll do about 5 of them. And then I'll move my thumbs a little bit and do a couple more. Move my thumbs a little bit, do a couple more. Just kind of hunt around, loosening up that crease. You'll feel that crease as you start to go down. Right where you get that crease in your hip there, that's where you want to work your thumbs into it. And I've noticed that that has taken the pain away 100%. Another thing we can do for the hips is we can take that massage stick that we used in the self-assessment lower body fix video, go into a couch stretch. So I got my foot up on the bench, just like I showed you in that video. And instead of rolling out our quads, we can actually roll out the hip. Wherever we might have some issues. Usually if I do this before I come out and do my warm-up, I don't have any issues. It's when I forget to do this that I have to do the thing with my thumbs. Now I know that pinching sensation in the front of the hip when you squat is a common issue that a lot of people have. As I said in the previous video, if any of these fixes help chronic issues that you have, add them into the end of your warm-up. In the next video, part 3 in this series, we're going to cover the back, the chest, the shoulders, and the neck. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that video. Until next time, this is Coach Jason coming to you live inside the rack.